All righty, everybody. I am super pumped because today we have a legend amongst us. We have one of the best Jaguar content creators, writers, everything. You guys know him already. Jordan de Lugo from Gen Jag. Jordan, how's it going, man?
I'm doing very well. Happy to be here with you. Happy to talk some football, some Jaguars football, getting into I guess you could call it week 2 of the preseason, week 1 for everyone else, but I'm fired up.
Not, dude, me too, man. And I've been obviously a fan of yours and your company for a long time. You guys just absolutely kill it. So I do want to hear because you're there at the practices, you're at the training camps. I mean, you get insight more than anybody. And I know the fans want to hear that too. But this may be selfish for me personally, but I really just kind of want to hear like what made you start Gen Jag? Like what kind of like motivated you to do it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, graduating from UNF at the end of 2014, I just wanted to have an outlet to write about the Jaguars. That's how it really all started. And just thinking about the name, obviously a lot of people understand what Generation Jaguar is. It's the group of kids who grew up in Jacksonville and didn't really know the city without the team. You grew up with the team. I was born in 1991. Jaguars came to fruition in 1993, and then started playing football in '95. So I don't remember Jacksonville without the Jaguars. They've had a big impact on my life, and so I just wanted to write about the team after I graduated from college, and started doing that. And then people wanted to tailgate, and so we kind of did the fan group thing for a while, which was a lot of fun. Had some awesome tailgates, some awesome times, and then merchandise as well. People wanted hats and shirts just with our original logo on them, and so we started doing that. And I just started having ideas for, like, well, I would really love to wear this hat. Maybe I can sell it to a bunch of other people that will also want to wear this hat. And so that's kind of how the merch thing started going. And then as I started building more relationships within the Jaguars organization, and getting more notoriety from other writers and fans and all that, I just kind of, I think 3 or 4 years ago, I just emailed the PR people and asked about getting credentials, shared my information with them, and I was able to get into training camp. And then the rest has kind of been history, just covering the team. And obviously, COVID had a big impact on coverage, and that made it a little difficult for like OTAs and stuff in 2020 and 2021. But we're back in kind of a normalish time now. COVID's still out there, but the NFL doesn't have the COVID protocols anymore. It's not limited media access. So we're back in business, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been a little different this year, getting out to Episcopal's night campus instead of just parking at the stadium, but it's been a lot of fun. I think the fields have been in great condition. They did an amazing job with that. So I was a little concerned, maybe, how is a high school field that they're not used to having an NFL team out there for training camp? Obviously, how is it going to hold up? But the Episcopal staff and the Jaguars turf crew and all that, they've done an amazing job keeping up with it, and it looks like a professional field. But yeah, that's basically how I got into doing everything I'm doing and where we're at now.
Dude, that is so awesome. Big shout out to Patrick Jackson in the chat who donated 83 pounds, which I'll have to look at what that is, but it sounds like a lot of money. He's one of our faithful UK fans. We have a big following over in UK, which is I love it. It's just crazy. So thank you, Patrick. I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean Jordan. I mean you got everyone here knows who Jordan is. It's so funny because I did a podcast with some buddies like to get started. And then when we kind of whatever decided to go kind of solo on YouTube, I was trying to think of a name to like brand myself. I was like, if only there was like a way that I could just like bring together all of the Jaguar fans or that are like first generation Jaguar fans. Like, how could I capture that? And I was like, oh crap, Gen Jag already did it years ago. Like the perfect name for it. So I always loved it because it's the perfect name because like you, me, I'm the same way. Like we're first generation Jaguar fans. And people don't realize
Right.
that about the Jags fan base when they talk about the fans and all of that. They're like, we're not the Cowboys and the Eagles that have had generations and generations of fans. Like we're all like we're first generation fans and now our generation's kids are starting to become fans. So we're going to see a big spike in all of this stuff. But really love what you do. I mean, I see people, it's got to feel good. And maybe you can tell us how this feels. Like walk around the games in the stadium and just seeing like people everywhere wearing your merchandise, like stuff that you've put out, stuff that you've sold, that you've branded, that you've created. Like, what's that feeling like seeing Jags fans like wearing your stuff everywhere?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It is awesome. It's kind of surreal. Obviously, like I know people are buying it because I'm having to I'm having to ship it all out. I don't have like a what is it called where you have like a company that does the fulfillment for you. I don't have a
Right.
fulfillment service. I do all the fulfillment myself. So I know that we're doing sales and all that, but it is still kind of crazy. I remember 2017. There's people with the AJ as my boy A shirt on in the playoff game, like on national television. Stuff like that has been really cool. And then yeah, just seeing it around town, or like seeing a sticker on someone's car when I'm driving in traffic, or whatever it is. It is awesome. It's really surreal. It's really cool. I put a lot of heart and effort into all of it, and so to see it, to see people appreciate it and kind of feel the same way I do about it it's awesome. It's everything you could hope for.
That's so awesome, man. It's so cool to see. Another fan that's just kind of done it organically. He hasn't been shipped in from another city. Haven't come down here as a fan of someone else. It's like an organic growth, grassroots Jags fans. And I think that's why I've always respected you and your company so much, is because that's the same thing that I'm going for here. The organic grassroots Jags fans. So we
Yeah,
appreciate
you do
everything
a
you've
great
done.
job too. Like I got to give you props. Like your channel with the film analysis and the way you're able to talk about the game, I think is really a great thing, and a great outlet for you, and a great content for all the fans that are interested in that sort of analysis.
Well, I appreciate it, man. It means a lot coming from you. So let's get to this season. So I think all of us have high expectations for the season. And I'm not going to sit here and ask you to say how many wins, because that's just not fair to anybody, right? But like, what do you ideally want to see from this team this year? Like, doesn't it can be a win amount? It can be like a certain player or a certain side of the ball or whatever. Like, what do you want to see from this team this year?
I think the number one thing that anybody should hope to see is a team that is organized, because obviously looking back at 2021 specifically, but even further back, I just don't think the coaching has been up to par. I was a Doug Marrone guy in terms of who he was as a person, as like someone who interacts with the media. I enjoyed his presence. I enjoyed chatting with him. But what was he bringing to the table in terms of stability and organization and all that stuff? Not much, in my opinion. Urban Meyer obviously was about the worst it could possibly be. So you want to see stability and organization from the top down, from Doug Peterson and Trent Baalke all the way down through the coaching staff, and then onto the field with the players. You don't want to see a team that is beating itself, which the Jaguars did regularly last year and in years prior. And then obviously Trevor Lawrence, first overall pick in 2021. A lot of people believe a generational talent at quarterback. I mean, he and Justin Fields are the two best quarterbacks, in my opinion, that I've ever scouted, starting back in 2018. And so, yeah, the sky should be the limit for Trevor Lawrence. You've got Doug Peterson, who's done it with many quarterbacks in the league. He's done it himself as a backup quarterback for a long time. Worked his way up through the coaching ranks, right? As an offensive assistant, and then offensive coordinator, and then head coach. He's done it at all these different positions. He's done it with Carson Wentz, who is less talented and pretty much every way you want to look at it than Trevor Lawrence. So I think Doug Peterson and his stability and just organization from the top, and then his impact on Trevor Lawrence and Trevor Lawrence's own personal growth, regardless of who the coach is. I think you've seen it throughout the offseason. You've seen it in training camp, in my opinion. And I just want to see it transfer over onto the field on Sundays, when the games count in the fall. I think if you see those two things, regardless of the win-loss total, you can feel good about the future of this franchise.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's all spot on. Those are all things that fans should be looking for. And if those things improve, wins don't matter. Wins can be fluky with penalties and things like that. So, yeah, those are the big things. I agree 100%. If you guys are living under a rock, you don't know who Jordan de Lugo is, founder, CEO, everything of Generation Jaguar. I have all his information in the title of the video. So follow it. Make sure you follow him on Twitter. Subscribe to his YouTube channel. Everything on there. His website's on there. So check out his merchandise. He's got great merchandise. Go get yourself a Gen Jag shirt or hat or sticker or whatever else that they have on the website. Flipping over to the defensive side of the ball. I'm a big defensive guy, but you've had the
Yeah.
boots on the ground. You've been there. You've seen it. Since you've seen more of Travon Walker than anyone. So, like, with your eyes, what are you seeing out of Travon Walker, and like, what do you kind of hope to see from him this year?
Sky's the limit. It really is. And I wrote about him, in January, well before he was really talked about as potentially the first overall pick to the Jaguars. He was rising up boards, and I had him as a borderline top 10 talent at that time. And that didn't really change much for me. But what I did say, said, if this prospect is the best pass rusher from this class in a year or two, the best edge rusher as a whole, I will not be shocked. I didn't have him ranked the highest, but I said I will not be surprised in any way, because you see just the God-given ability. You don't find players that are 6'5", 272 pounds, 35.5-inch arms, and that can use the power, the leverage, the bend, and the movement in space, the quick change of directions, the fluidity. You don't see players with that skill set. Bottom line, you just don't. He's a unicorn type of skill set. It's always been about developing the pass rush moves. Now, seeing what he's done on the field in training camp, and then, of course, we got a glimpse of what he can be in the Hall of Fame game. You see it all. Again, you want to see the pass rush development, the arsenal. You want to have a toolbox. You want to have a go-to move, which he does have go-to moves. You want to see the counters develop, and you want to see just the ability to build off of what he already has developed. But I think at this point in time, he's already a good starting outside linebacker in the NFL. He was already a great run defender. He was already really good at dropping. Again, so fluid in space. And I think the sky is the limit, like I said. Looking at him in camp, though, I really think he's taken off since the pads have come on, since he can use his physicality and length to really impact things. And don't get me wrong, Cam Robinson and Walker Little have been holding their own in one-on-ones and 11-on-11. But you see plays from him every practice that you're out there, and you're just like, goodness gracious. And then seeing him tied at the hip with Josh Allen and outside linebackers coach Bill Shuey, that's huge as well. You love to see that. I'm not going to proclaim that Travon's going to go out and be a Pro Bowler in year one or anything like that, but that guy's going to be a positive impact on this football team in year one, bottom line.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely saw that stiff arm move that he did in the preseason game. So he has that, just using his strength and leverage and things like that, which I really like. One thing I'd be interested to get your thoughts on is, and I don't know, honestly, like, do you think we're going to see him more in that like stand up 9 technique outside edge rusher, or are we going to see him more with his hand in the dirt, head up on the tackle, or do you think it'll be a mixture of the both?
Right now, it's exclusively outside linebacker, right? 2-point stance, outside of the tackle. But I absolutely believe the Jaguars are going to end up moving him around. When does that happen? I think whenever they think he feels and looks close to 100% comfortable at outside linebacker. I think that will be his best role in the NFL, but another one of his great traits will be his versatility, because there's no question in my mind that you're going to be able to line him up and third down packages and try to get him head up against a guard and just take advantage of his length and quickness and explosiveness off the ball. That's another thing you saw in that game. He was a good head or two in front of every other pass rusher, every other defensive lineman, every other player on the ball. When right after the snap, if you just pause it a second after the snap, his get off was incredible. And I think that's going to be really exciting to see as well. But yeah, he's going to end up being a versatile player. I don't know how much versatility they will allow him to show in terms of alignment early on. But even at outside linebacker, like, you have to be versatile to play that position in a 3-4 defense, because not only are you trying to rush the passer, you're trying to set the edge, you have to drop. I mean, you have to drop in coverage in a 3-4 defense. So he's going to be versatile in that regard from the get-go. But will they have him lined up, over centers and over guards early on in the season? I'm not sure. You haven't really seen that yet. But eventually, I do think those things will be coming.
Yeah, I mean, what the thing that's kind of like perplexing me, and I know it's early and it's young. The thing I'm having like trouble figuring out how they're gonna make work is in situations where we're playing offenses where they spread the field, whether it's 2-by-2, 10 formation, like spread field, or they're just straight empty. Like if there's a back in the field or you have a running quarterback, you're not going to be able to put both Josh Allen and Travon Walker out that wide, because then you're just too exposed up the middle. So I think like teams will take advantage of that if he doesn't develop some sort of ability to shift to a 3-point inside, or maybe Josh Allen does it, or maybe it's just super early in his development where eventually he'll get there and we don't know yet. But I'm just concerned. Patrick Jackson in the chat has a good question for you. He asks, who would you have taken at number 1 if you had been making this call?
I would have taken Evan Neal. And that goes back. I wouldn't have signed Cam Robinson to an $18 million deal. That's just how I would have played it out. I did a video on what I would have done differently this offseason from the Jaguars. And that's not to say they're wrong. I don't think that looking at Travon Walker that I would change anything at this point, because he looks amazing. But yeah, I was an Evan Neal guy. I was, go get Evan Neal, try to go get Teron Armstead as well. And then you have an embarrassment of riches up front to protect your franchise quarterback with. I think that would have been a good play. But at the end of the day, that's not the way they approached it. And Cam Robinson does look the best he has ever looked in camp so far. He has improved every year as a starter. And so that's what the Jaguars are banking on with him. And then, so I would have taken Evan, bottom line. But
yeah, I think I'm there with you. I mean, I share your sentiment exactly about that. It would have been nice to kind of give Trevor, because we still have a little bit of question marks there. I think it's a good transition to the offensive line. Do you have concerns about that left guard position, about the youth of that center position, about the right? Do you have concerns about the offensive line?
I would say I don't think they're like the most talented offensive line in the game, but like when you look at every individual on the line, I feel pretty good. And I did want to circle back real quick to the question about, lining up with the hand in the dirt with Travon or Josh Allen. Right now, Josh Allen is listed as a defensive end / outside linebacker. And if that means anything, I'm not sure if it does, but, that would suggest that Josh Allen would have that responsibility early on, more so than Travon. But looking at the offensive line, I think Cam Robinson, I've said it for a long time, I think he's a slightly above average left tackle, starting left tackle. Brandon Thorne, who does trench warfare, he's an offensive line expert. He had him ranked as the 15th best left tackle in football. So that kind of is in line with how I view Cam Robinson as well. Is that going to get you juiced up? No, but is that good enough? Yeah, I would say it is. And then you look at left guard, it's going to be Tyler Shatley or it's going to be Ben Bartch, one of the two. It looks like it's Tyler Shatley right now. Do I feel bad about that? No, but have you ever gone into a season with Tyler Shatley as your starter? No, you haven't. So you can look at that and maybe poke holes, but Shatley's a vet. He's smart. He's strong. He's physical. I like him. And I think between him and Ben Barch, whoever wins that job, I think you can feel at least decent about. Luke Fortner, he's had some rookie moments at center, but Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence both rave about him. And he's a guy I had a second round grade on coming out. Jaguars got him at the top of round 3. I think that almost any rookie is going to have, welcome to the NFL moments as a rookie. You've seen it from Luke Fortner. You saw it from Chad Muma in preseason week 1 or week 0, whatever you want to call it, against the Raiders. Most rookies are going to have those moments. They're going to happen in camp. They're going to happen in the preseason. They're going to happen in the regular season. I think Travon Walker might be an exception just because of how physically gifted he is. You haven't seen that from him yet. But most rookies are going to have those moments. I think Luke Fortner is going to be a really good center for the Jacksonville Jaguars for a long time. Is he going to be a really good center week 1? I don't know. He's going to have a hell of a task going up against Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne. Fortunately, Chase Young won't be out there, but they still got beasts up front in Washington. I don't know how quickly it'll come together for Fortner. He's having ups and downs, in my opinion, in camp so far. The Jaguars are raving about him. Brandon Scherf, that is a weapon. That's an offensive weapon at right guard. He's unbelievable. You've never had, since I've been covering the team, a legitimate offensive weapon on the line. And that is what he is. He's going to get out there and he's going to make plays happen. And I like Walker Little a lot. I'd be shocked if he doesn't end up the starter. He's currently listed as the backup right tackle behind Jawan Taylor. Jawan missed about a week or so with a hamstring. He's back now. They're splitting reps. I'd be shocked if Walker Little doesn't win that job. He has been stellar in pass protection. I think at the point of attack in the run game, he's strong. He can improve, in my opinion, working to the second level, framing up some of those blocks against smaller, more agile players. But if you talk about a guy that's going to protect Trevor Lawrence, I think Walker Little can do that. And that's the most important thing you can do for this offense. So I don't feel like this is an elite offensive line, but I think it's an offensive line that'll get the job done. And if the bets that they made, Cam Robinson showing some dramatic improvement, Luke Fortner being a legitimate starter from the get-go, and Walker Little becoming a quality right tackle, then I think they're going to be solid. They're going to be good to go. And I think Doug Peterson's scheme, and especially bringing in Phil Rauscher as the offensive line coach, is going to yield massive dividends. Phil Rauscher, he might be my favorite coach on the staff. This guy really gets after it.
Yeah, I mean, you have I had question marks about the left guard position, so you kind of addressed that. I don't know. I mean, we're extremely thin on the offensive line, but every team is thin on the offensive line, so it's nothing that's going to be different if we have injuries. Everyone else is going to be dealing with that too. Grace,
but if Jawan is your swing tackle, that's not bad.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He's been a starter for a long time, and he might not even be the swing tackle. He might just be the backup right tackle. And like if Cam Robinson went down, you move Walker over to left tackle. So, and then interior, I mean, having Ben Barch as a backup, I don't think that's bad. I do think that the guy they picked up, Daryl Williams, had a really good showing in the preseason. He's kind of impressing me at center. So I think there's okay depth at the offensive line. I really do.
Yeah, I sure hope so. Grace Lambert with a $4.99 donation says, "What a duo! Us Jag fans love to see the collab." Well, I appreciate it, Grace. Yeah, I'm glad that Jordan's here. I said it earlier. I've always admired what he's done and what he's been able to accomplish. It's real impressive. One of our channel members, Volk Fang, has a question for you. He says, "Which group do you think looks the most improved over the last year?"
Great question. Honestly, looking at the wide receiver group, I didn't think it was going to be a bad group last year. So I don't want to go there, even though I do think they're dramatically improved. Obviously, the DJ Chark injury messed things up there. big time. But I think you could look at I think you could look at the cornerback group, because I think Tyson Campbell is miles ahead of where he was last year at this time. Bringing in Darius Williams is huge. But I'll say linebacker. Like, everyone loved Miles Jack. I loved Miles Jack, but the bottom line is he did not produce in the Jaguars defense the way he needed to. I think he's a more natural fit for a 4-3 weak side linebacker. He wasn't often afforded the opportunity to do that in Jacksonville. I think it's going to be good for him to have a change of scenery, get to Pittsburgh. Hopefully that'll help out his career. But he wasn't getting the job done. And Damian Wilson was, he was a middling starter at best. Now you've got Foye Oluokun, who I think is an ascending player who, when he entered the NFL, he was incredibly raw. And to see his development over the last couple of years in Atlanta, to be, the NFL's leading tackler, to be a guy who can drop it and pick the ball off and force fumbles, peanut punch. And I think bringing him in is a massive upgrade. I think bringing in Devin Lloyd is a massive upgrade. Like, that guy was my number one linebacker in this class, bar none. Off-ball linebacker, that is. And then Chad Muma, I had an early second on. They get him in the third round. I think that they are massively improved at the linebacker position. I think it's going to show up big time on Sundays.
Yeah, I think there was like something to be said about the type of person that this regime went after. You look at just the intelligence of guys like Luke Fortner and Chad Muma. Those guys are like known. They were great students, Lloyd
and Oluokun too are both.
Oluokun from Yale, so
yeah.
It's like, they definitely went after that type of player, and I like it. I like to build that way. I think you can get a lot more out of some of these late round guys if you can depend on them, their football IQ, and doing that there. We have another question, and this is about Rudy Ford, to kind of get your mind thinking. It's from Philip Butcher, channel member. He says, is Rudy Ford going to get a nod to start? He's looked awesome so far.
No. Rayshawn Jenkins and Andre Cisco are going to be the Jaguars starting safeties week one. Unless, the I word pops up, that's going to be what it is. And frankly, right now, Rudy Ford is running more with the third team than the second team. I think your second team safeties are Daniel Thomas and Andrew Wingard. And that's not to be dismissive or anything. That's how it looks out there. And I like Rudy Ford too. He came in, played the big nickel a lot last year, was kind of their main nickel out of necessity more than anything. And he did some nice things, and he's a core special teamer, great special teams player. But yeah, he's not going to be in the starting lineup.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Wingard. I thought he played a pretty decent game against Vegas, So, is he any chance Wingard? I know people don't like Wingard, which is fine. Fans have their own opinion. Any chance Wingard pushes Cisco at that strong safety position?
No, and Cisco, in my opinion, and when you look at the depth chart, he's the free safety. Jenkins is the strong safety. Dewey is going to stick around. He's going to be on the team, but he's not going to start. Bottom line, Andre Cisco is another player that I think has taken a massive leap, and he was good from the get-go from when he arrived in Jacksonville. I don't know what the hell the last coaching staff was thinking and not having him in the starting lineup, because you saw him in training camp. They were giving him all these different assignments and different packages. He'd be lined up on the line of scrimmage, lined up in the box at like a middle linebacker spot, lined up at free safety, lined up at strong safety, lined up single high, split zone coverage. Like, he was doing everything, and he was doing it well. And I don't know what the hell they were doing. And he looks even better this year. I think, a year away from the ACL, a year to develop confidence, to know that he can do this. I think Cisco he's gonna turn some heads this year.
Yeah, that's awesome. I hate to do this to everybody, but we're gonna take a quick 2 minute break because I have to renew the Zoom because the Zoom just told me it's gonna run out of time here. So we're gonna go just a 2 minute break. So hang tight, don't go anywhere. We'll be back with Jordan from Gen Jag. We're gonna get his take more on the Jags and what's gonna be coming. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. And we are back. Thanks for that, taking that little break with us. We had to make sure that Zoom didn't cut us off. So the risk you run when using free software. So Jordan, thank you. I appreciate it again. Thank you for those that are hanging around in the chat. We're getting Jordan de Lugo from Gen Jags. Thoughts on this season coming up. Again, make sure to go support him. I know you guys already are subscribed and following everything that he has in the info on about the show. But go support him even more. Go on his website, buy a shirt, buy a hat. What else can they do on the website? What else do you have to offer on your website and other things like that?
Yeah, so at this point, it pretty much is exclusively merch and just watching the videos. That helps us out a ton. I am going to be launching a channel membership at some point in the near future. I've got ideas for that in the works, so people can be on the lookout for that. That'll be a great way to help support. But yeah, any merch you want, you can grab it, you can enjoy having it, and it also supports us, right? There's a lot of fun stuff up on the site, whether it be hats, shirts, stickers, etc. And then yeah, just watching the videos helps out a ton, and subscribing, of course. But yeah, the channel memberships will be up probably before the start of the regular season. Just got to get it all squared away and make sure that I'm approaching it the right way, and I'm excited about it. But yeah, I appreciate you letting me plug that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you come across people all the time that have like merch and products, and quite frankly, it's just crap a lot of times. But it's like they just kind of put it out there. But you guys' stuff is good. I don't know if I don't know if it's just you or you have a team of people. I don't know who it is, but the stuff you guys come out with. I mean, I see people wearing stuff all the time of your stuff. I mean, I see it in local stores around here. So it's like definitely doing its job, and it's pretty cool that you have that available for the fans for sure. Because there's definitely a lack of that out there for people to get. So it's cool that that's there. Randy Marsh gave
Randy.
$5. And he said, I'm going to go mow my lawn for the next 6 hours. So don't start the stream until I come back. Unfortunately, I don't think Jordan has 6 hours, but we are glad that he's here now. So we've talked about what your expectations are, or what you want to see, the offensive line, linebackers. We talked safeties, which is good. So, what are you expecting to see? I know you kind of mentioned receivers. What are your thoughts on the whole Christian Kirk contract? What are your thoughts on how you think guys like Laviska, Marvin Jones, Zay Jones, like how do you see that whole wide receiver group? And if you want to lump in the receiving tight ends, that's fine as well too. Like, how do you kind of see that whole situation playing out this season? And how do you feel about all the contracts that we signed for these players?
Yeah, we had a little scare on Monday. Was that yesterday? Gosh, I drove to Fort Lauderdale and back over the last 24 hours
Oh
to pick up my sister. So
gosh.
days are blending together. Time is, I don't know what time is right now, but yeah, it was yesterday. Christian Kirk celebrating a Zay Jones score, uh, rolled his ankle a little bit there. And it was a scary moment, but it looks like he's going to be okay. Looks like it's just a minor thing. He was kind of jumping around and testing it out after that, looking fine. Did not return to practice, but word is he should be okay. But I think regarding his contract, look, was there any other team in the NFL that was going to throw $18 million a year at Christian Kirk? No. And there wasn't another team in the NFL that was going to pay Foye Luke and $15 million per year. Does that matter? For the Jaguars, not really. I mean, it's a 2-year deal. It's not going to impact their long-term cap situation at all. I mean, I know it can be a 4-year deal, but essentially it's 2 years. After that, they can get out of it with very minimal penalties against the cap. I think, if anything, if you want to think about it from like a big brain perspective, it just made all the other teams in the league have to overspend on all their receivers. And now you're looking at Christian Kirk's deal, and right now it's looking like it might be a steal. And especially when you look at all the players that are going to get paid in between now and the next 6 or 8, 10 months. So I don't have a problem with it at all. What does Christian Kirk bring to the team? He's going to line up inside. He's going to line up outside. He's a really smart receiver in terms of identifying coverages, and he can adjust his routes to get to the landmarks where, you know, if we're facing a cover 2 zone, I know where I need to get. If I'm facing man to man, I know what I need to do. And I think that's going to help Trevor Lawrence out a lot. He gets open, he runs routes. He can work vertically. You've seen that in Arizona. He can take the top off the defense despite not having like overwhelming speed. He has good speed, but he has great quickness and change of direction. And that helps him really take the top off the defense. He has solid hands, really good hands. He's made some contested catches already. I mean, caught 75% of his targets last year. Unbelievable. I think he's a great addition. I do not think he is a true number 1. I think the question is, does a Doug Peterson offense require a true number 1? And we're going to find the answer out, obviously, in a few weeks, in a few months, and see how things are going. But I do think he's going to be an invaluable piece for Trevor to just, you know, dump the ball down to, get the easy yardage, and then also be able to have some vertical shots to Christian Kirk. So I like the signing. I think he's great for a Doug Peterson offense. Doug's going to move him all around, and I think that's going to be really good. Marvin Jones, I think he's a possession receiver at this point in his career. He's going to come up with some big plays, you know, in contested catch situations. There's also going to be a few head scratchers where you're like, why couldn't he come up with that one? But I think as a possession receiver who can bail you out, go up above the rim and make some plays, Marvin can do that for you. Zay Jones, I think at minimum, he's a guy that they're going to use to try to stretch the field vertically on the outside and also use him as a blocker. And when you talk about Doug Peterson's quick game stuff, whether it's RPOs, read options, screens, jet sweeps, your receivers got to be able to get out there and block their ass off. And Zay Jones is going to do that for you. I think his hands have been pretty good in camp so far. He showed that over the back half of last season and with the Raiders. I look at him as a guy that probably should be more of a role player in the NFL, but the Jaguars viewed him as someone they thought was ascending, as someone they think can line up at X for them and threaten vertically. And we'll see if that comes to fruition. Again, here in a couple months for the Jaguars. But then you look at Laviska, you look at Jamal Agnew. Those are two players I really like as your fourth and fifth options at receiver. I just think they're more talented than that, and they can really get this offense going in terms of, well, we've got Christian Kirk covered, we've got Marvin Jones and Zay Jones covered. Oh, what are we doing about Visca and Jamal? Those guys can do it with the ball in their hands. They can make people miss. Obviously, Visca can run through people as well. So I think those are two exciting role players as well. And then Evan Ingram, I think, is the ultimate X factor. Is he? And I think he's going to be up and down. I think on the weeks where he's on, this offense is going to be incredibly difficult to stop because you're just not going to have answers for everything as a defense. On the weeks where he's off, this offense could be frustrating because you could see drops when you need the catches. So I'm really intrigued to see how Evan Ingram pans out. I have a tough time really predicting him to just all of a sudden become a consistent football player when he hasn't been that throughout his career. Do I think Doug Peterson will get the most out of him? I do. He's done that with tight ends throughout his coaching career, but I still think you're going to have frustrating moments, and it just depends on how many frustrating moments there are throughout the season. But I like Dan Arnold as well. I think being able to use both of those players as receiving tight ends. Chris Manhertz is obviously more of a blocker, but I think Luke Farrell, you've seen it over the last couple of weeks, he has some ability to be a quality receiver as well. So I think they're leaps and bounds ahead of where they were last year from the receiving standpoint, especially add in Travis Etienne as well. He's going to catch the ball a lot. Do I think they're like an upper echelon group of offensive weapons? No. But Travis Etienne could elevate them to that point just because he looks incredible. And if Evan Ingram does somehow just become more consistent, that guy, all the talent in the world, Evan Ingram. So it's interesting. I think they've made some big bets. We'll see if they pay off.
Yeah, I mean, I personally feel that Christian Kirk will suit our offense better than he did Arizona's. I don't think he's
definitely.
I think he's better at route running and creating separation from the defensive backs and timing routes, and that's more of what Trevor Lawrence does more than Kyler Murray. So I think you might see
Absolutely.
that jump to 1,000 yards for him and something like that.
And not even really a jump, right? He was at like
995
last year, right?
Yeah, but
everybody's like, oh, he's never had 1,000 yards. Okay.
It was one catch.
One more catch, right? Like, come on.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've gotten a lot of questions on my past shows about guys like Laquan Treadwell, Jeff Cotton Jr. Any chance those guys sneak onto the roster, or do you see any type of wild card type pass catcher sneaking onto the roster?
If I had to say right now, I think Laquan is the favorite to be the sixth receiver. But another thing, I don't know how many people realize this, Doug Peterson has been incredibly fluid in the past with how many players he keeps at a specific position. It's not like he's a guy where like, I have to have 6 receivers on the roster. I have to have 6 corners on the roster. He's kept 5, he's kept 6, he's kept 7. It really is just going to depend on the entire puzzle fitting together with the roster, the 53-man roster. So I wouldn't be surprised if they only kept 5, which would obviously be Christian Kirk, Marvin Jones, Zay Jones, Jamal Agnew, and Laviska Shenault. I wouldn't be surprised if they kept 6. 7 would surprise me just because I don't think anyone has done enough to be like, well, we like him so much that we're unwilling to risk someone picking him up. Like most of these players, you're going to be able to stash on your practice squad at wide receiver, in my opinion. Laquan Treadwell, they did stash on the practice squad last year. He only got called up to the active roster because of injuries to DJ Chark and company. So if there were a couple guys to keep an eye on, I do think it is Jeff Cotton, guys beyond Laquan Treadwell. Jeff Cotton, I think, is a really fun player. He's got the size and athleticism and playmaking ability you look for. I think he's taken the most of made the most of a lot of his opportunities. Felt really bad for him the other night. He had his play called back, offensive penalty. Can't remember if it was holding or what it was, but he had a nice chunk of yardage that got called back. And the other guy I think they really like a lot is Tim Jones, who's had a really good spring. He's had some moments in camp, not as many in my opinion as some others. And then of course, Lawan Winningham has been great, but he's just buried on the depth chart and he's a bit raw. I think he's a practice squad guy, but I would say keep an eye on Jeff Cotton and Tim Jones beyond Laquan Treadwell.
Yeah, so I mean, look, that would be. I mean, there's a lot of bodies there, so it'll be interesting to see. There's only so many reps to go around. Be interesting to see. I'm interested to see kind of how. I mean, I watched a lot of film from the Eagles on that Super Bowl run, and I mean, they used the crap out of Alshon Jeffrey on the outside. I mean, they pretty much relied on him on their 2-point conversion plays, fourth down plays, throwing him jump balls. Like, do you see someone on this roster that could be that outside jump ball threat that Doug Peterson relied on so much on that 2017 run? Or do you think he's just going to change his game plan based on who he has here?
I do think he wants to have that, right? I think he'll adjust if it's not working, but I think you'll come out and you will see Marvin Jones and Evan Ingram and Zay Jones being asked to try to do that. And you've seen Marvin Jones do it in the past throughout his career. You saw him do it last year. Go up and get some of those 50-50 balls. That last game of the year against the Colts, he had one of the best catches. It was a great throw by Trevor Lawrence, but really good catch in the back of the end zone. Evan Ingram has also done it. Again, inconsistent in that regard, but he'll make some of the best grabs you've ever seen. Also drop some easy ones. Zay Jones, I don't know if he's a contested catch player, but I think they're going to try to see if he can be.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I mean, hopefully he's just with Press Taylor and Mike McCoy, they come up with ideas of just kind of using Kirk out of the slot more than depending on that jump ball. But
I will tell you one thing. That is the singular area of the field that this offense has struggled throughout training camp. It's punching it in the red zone. So they're working on it. It is a work in progress, and it's not finalized. Like, it's August 9th. There's over a month till the start of the regular season. They will have practiced more than double the amount of time that they have practiced between the start of training camp and now, between now and the start of the regular season. So they've got room to grow, but they need to grow. They absolutely do. I don't think you do have yet a player where Trevor is just like, I'm going to toss it up to him and he's going to come down with it for sure. And then you look at some of the underneath stuff. It's hard to sneak that stuff in the red zone. The space is tight. Formations are condensed. You kind of need somebody to just be able to go up and get the football, like you said. So that's going to be certainly something to monitor for this team. So you got to be able to score in the red zone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're coming up on 50 minutes. I appreciate you being here. Maybe I just kind of want to talk about maybe one more position group. Philip Butcher, channel member, is asking about is Travis Etienne as explosive as everyone is saying? You've been there, and I'll take that question a step further because you've been there. Like, what are your expectations from the running back room? We know James Robinson is coming off an injury. Where do you see him kind of fitting in? And, like, what would be your timeline if you were speculating? Does Snoop Connor contribute at all, or does Etienne take the entire? Like, what are you expecting from that group?
I think they've got a bunch of ass kickers at running back. Like, James Robinson's a stud. We all know that. Of course, he's coming back from the Achilles, but you've seen him start to run full speed. I saw it on Monday. He was running full speed. It was not, 75. He was running as fast as he could. And you've seen him carrying the ball in like 7-on-7 situations, not in 11-on-11 yet, not in live. But the target Doug Peterson shared at the beginning of camp was mid-August, and we're creeping up on mid-August. I don't think he's going to play in a game in mid-August, but I think he's going to start practicing close to mid-August and be ready for the regular season. Travis Etienne he was a first-round pick for a reason. And make no mistake about it, you can make fun of the Jaguars for drafting a running back in the first round. If he was not drafted by the Jaguars, the Bills were going to take him a couple picks later. We've gotten confirmation on that. The Bills were going to take Travis Etienne. And you saw what they did in the draft this year. They went and got their version of Travis Etienne and James Cook at the top of the second round. Etienne is the all-time leading scorer in ACC history. Like, he's unbelievable. He's fast, he's quick, he has, and I don't know if anybody saw this, or I don't think there's any clips of it, but when they went live for the first time on Sunday, Etienne was just waiting for contact. He wanted to feel it. He wanted to get hit. And that takes a little kind of a psycho, right?
Yeah.
A guy that he didn't try to hit Andre Cisco. He just let Andre Cisco hit him. He didn't try to step out of bounds. He didn't try to lower his shoulder. He just said, I want to take this hit. Like, that's the kind of crazy you want in a running back, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, he's got the hands. His hands have developed tremendously since his time at Clemson. That was one of the reasons he stayed an extra year, was to develop his receiving game. And he's done that. He looks, I think both of those guys, Robinson and Etienne, are both fantastic backs. And Snoop Connor has been one of the biggest surprises of camp to me. I evaluated him at Ole Miss. I saw a guy who, same exact build as James Robinson, but I think he runs a little more upright than Robinson. Robinson's more low to the ground, which concerned me, but he's looked awesome too. I mean, he's quicker and faster than I expected, and he's done his job in pass pro. He's caught everything thrown to him. I think he's going to be a grinder as well. So I think you've got a really nice group of running backs with that top three in Jacksonville. And of course, you do need to see James Robinson healthy. But there's no question about Travis Etienne's health. He's ready to go. Yeah, he looks great.
That's awesome. I'm excited about the running back group. That's why I wanted to get your take on it, because it is different when you see them. When you see them in person and you see kind of if they're going 100% versus 75%, that's a big deal, like you were saying. So that's encouraging to see. Just quickly,
I think they're going to be better at running the ball than throwing the ball this year.
That's what I like to hear right there. Quickly, before we let you go, Nick F had a good question, and I just want to hear your thoughts. What are your thoughts on Travon Chaisson? Are you thinking this year he makes the jump? I mean, he looked kind of promising against the Raiders. Like, what are your thoughts and feelings about him?
You've seen some moments from him in camp that make you feel better. Sadly, some of those moments, it has not been 45. It's actually been 49. I'm getting tricked out there. Arden Key's making plays. No, but he has made plays. Travon Chaisson's made plays. And on Arden Key's first sack, Chaisson got there way late. I know people kind of talked about that. He wasn't in on that one. But the second sack that Arden Key got, Travon Chaisson was there before Arden Key, and he kind of forced the quarterback to step up into Arden Key, if I remember correctly. Chaisson got that pressure.
Yep.
And so you see things like that. I do think getting him he's in the best situation from a coaching perspective that he has been in since entering the league. He was a totally misfit in Todd Wash's 4-3 defense. Last year, I think, should have been a better fit, but just with everything going on around the team, it just did not pan out for him, and it didn't pan out for a lot of other players you expected more from. So I think he's in a much better situation from the defense that he's in to the coaching he's receiving, and he knows he has to fight for it now. Whether or not you want a guy to have a fire lit under his ass to get him going or not, he does have that. It's lit, and he's performed better. I think you'll see him make some plays this year as a rotational player. I still don't think you'll look at him and you're like, wow, that guy definitely should have been a first-round pick. But I think he'll make some strides this year in his third year, and I think the goal would be for him to really be a top rotational player by 2024. If they can get that done, I think they could feel really good about that, because the athleticism's there, and they gotta hone it and harness it, and I think using him on stunts is going to be beneficial for him. That's what he did most of his damage with at LSU, and I think if they're able to use him in that way here, it could help him out a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I have a little bit of optimism for him. I kind of have a feeling that, like you said, the best situation that he's been in. He's an athlete. Sometimes the type of player he is, it takes a little bit of time to adjust to the NFL, and they're a little bit later bloomers than some of these guys like Travon Walker that kind of have the total package. So it'll be
Hmm.
interesting to see what happens with him. Jordan, man, I want to thank you again for coming on the show. I appreciate it. I really do. I know your time is valuable. I know you do a lot of stuff with the Jags. So thank you so much for coming on and talking Jags. I mean, this has been a great time for me just to hear you kind of give your insight and things like that.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm happy to be on, and we'll have to have you on the channel, and certainly do this more often, and just talk Jags football. It's a good
Absolutely.
time.
Absolutely, man. I loved it. If you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe and follow everything that Jordan is a part of. I linked it all in the description of the video, so make sure to do that. You can also go to his website and support him and Gen Jag by buying some merch and getting some stuff, and be looking for some more articles. He's got great articles on there, videos, and things coming down the pipe through there. So make sure you do that and support him again. Thank you guys. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you guys. And we'll see you guys